Morning everybody, welcome back to Monday's Indycar. I'm Gordon Ross. Today I am in Maryhill, and also today I'm annoyed because I've been listening to Radio Scotland, and that's always something that annoys me. But more annoying than normal this morning is the Kay Adams phone-in show, which initially purported to be asking people their opinions on whether and when they thought there should be another independence referendum. Kay's show initially looked like it was going to be a phone-in where they were inviting people who'd perhaps been on the march on Saturday to voice their opinions about when the next Indy ref should be. But what's actually happened is the BBC has very carefully brought out all the usual racist, xenophobic subjects and brought out all the usual racist, xenophobic suspects. The usual suspects have been brought in to phone in. The first one of which was a classic. This guy from Murray who claimed that he wanted an independence referendum tomorrow and that no English people and no foreigners should be allowed to vote, only people born in Scotland. The racist xenophobe was the first guy on the show. Typical. The last person I actually listened to a minute ago, after Angela Hegarty had been on trying to firefight this ridiculous assumption that we wanted no English people to vote and we wanted no foreigners to vote. After she had damped that down and said that this was rubbish and that the whole point of the independence movement was that it's inclusive, the next guy they have on is some wee bigot from somewhere in Govan by the sound of it, saying that all of the Scottish all of the Scottish independence campaigners are all racists and they're all anti-English and anti-foreigner. And here we go again with the BBC, and it's poison. I mean, it is pure poison as usual. So I'm on this morning to say to Kay Adams, just stop it, Kay. I'm here in the morning as well with my show, and my show is getting a bigger audience than your show, Kay, will ever get. And it's getting a bigger audience because I don't lie to people and I don't invite on all the bigots and the xenophobes that I know on my call list to make it sound as if Scotland is a nasty place full of xenophobic, racists and haters. I'm afraid the xenophobic haters and racists are the ones on the unionist side, and we saw those on Saturday trying to barrack the march as peaceful protesters went by. And by the way, it's not 35 to 90,000. The official police number, K, was 91,000 plus. And that came from about 5 different sources. One police officer actually had to phone his boss to ask what the number was so he could tell one of the marchers on the march what the figure actually was. This was the police estimate, not our numbers, 91,000 plus. So you can stop with the 35,000 as well. Anyway, my show, Kay, in the morning is doing better than yours because I don't tell lies and I don't encourage racists onto my show. In fact, I wouldn't even let a racist onto my show. There is no need for me to provide balance in my show either, because I am a polemicist. I support independence. I say that right from the beginning, and I will not, under any circumstances, invite any racists to take part in this show. Having said all of that, to get back to the subject of your show this morning, Kay, when do we want an independence referendum? Well, Angela Hegarty of the Sunday Herald, I beg your pardon, editor of the Sunday Herald, she was saying she thought it would be 2021 and it would use the parliamentary elections at Holyrood as a mandate, a 4th bloody mandate. Do we need any more mandates, Angela, for God's sake? A 4th mandate to have a referendum sometime after 2021. By that time, it's absolutely too late. Angela Hegarty is another one that shouldn't really have been interviewed this morning. Her views are far too distant. By that time, the Holyrood Parliament will have been abolished or neutered by the Tories. We know it's going to happen now, Angela. We know it's going to happen, Kay. So the referendum has to be this year, and it has to be September, and it has to be controlled by and held by the Scottish Government, not by the British Government, not under a Section 30 order. It needs to be an advisory referendum because the referendum on Europe was an advisory, and the British government decided to take it seriously and act on it. They set the precedent, so the Scottish referendum does not need to have a Section 30 order in order to follow the precedent of the EU referendum. So we are quite entitled to have a referendum any time we like. We don't have to wait. We don't have to get a Section 30 order. We just have to have enough people demanding it, and then we hold it. And we're not Catalonia. We're not going to end up in a Catalan situation. It's another falsehood this morning. I'm absolutely livid at the amount of lies and falsehoods coming out of the phone-in people from Kay Adams' show this morning, including Angela Haggerty, who I find unbelievable that she would suggest that we have a referendum in 2021. It's a ridiculous time to have a referendum. By that time there'll be no politicians left in Scotland to hold a referendum, because the Holyrood Parliament will have been completely sidelined. It will have been disempowered. David Mundell will be running Scotland from his new office, and it will be too late. How many times do we have to say this? If we don't have the referendum this September, it will be too late to save Scotland from Brexit. We have to act now. It's as simple as that. Kay Adams' show is a complete and utter piece of propaganda this morning. It has been carefully engineered to make Scotland sound racist. It has been carefully engineered to make it sound like we have to have a referendum at some distant part of 2020s, by which time it's completely too late. And this is, of course, exactly what the British media wants you to think, that you have to have your referendum after it's too late, after we're out of Europe, and after the British government has completely and utterly shut down Holyrood. So Nicola Sturgeon will be out of a job, there will be no SNP government in Scotland, and the Tories will be ruling from London. Do not be fooled by any of this, people. This is complete and utter rubbish. It's not going to happen, and we mustn't let it happen this way. I know from speaking to people all over the world who contact me on a regular basis, people in the know, people who work in politics, people who are experts in political science, tell me the same thing. The referendum has to be in September, otherwise it will be too late for Scotland. Scotland will go down the plug hole with England into Brexit land, and by then it will be too late. I don't know why the SNP seems to think that it's somehow safe from the Tories. It's not safe from the Tories. We've already been swept aside. This Section 11 and the Brexit repeal bill, it's going to be steamrolled through. The British government's already said they're not going to listen to Scotland. No matter what the SNP government says, and no matter what the Parliament votes for, we will be ignored. And that tells me that is the final red line crossed. We have to have the referendum in September, or else it will be too late. It doesn't matter what Brexit looks like. It just matters that it's going to happen. Whether Brexit is good, bad or indifferent, it means that the powers of the Scottish Parliament will be stolen. And as soon as they've been stolen and the British government has started to use its so-called emergency Henry VIII powers, it's too bloody late. You've got to act this summer. If we don't act this summer, we might as well give up and just go back to bed, and that's it, give up and allow ourselves to be ruled from London for the rest of our lives. I can't see how anything on the Kay Adams show is going to help the independence campaign. Remember, this is the British state media. They're not out to help us. They're not out to show balance. Even the Herald, the Sunday Herald, put on a heavily edited photograph on the front page of their newspaper at the weekend, which made it look as if the independence marchers and the unionists were equal in numbers, with an equal number of flags even. Anybody who believes any newspaper or any British television programme is a fool. Even the papers which purport to be on the side of independence are turning. And I do not trust any newspaper in Scotland at the moment. I'd be prepared to bet you almost any money that as soon as an independence referendum is announced, that the national newspaper will be closed down because it's not making enough money. They'll find some excuse to silence it, and we will be left only with social media, as we are at the moment, predominantly with social media. But I'm telling you now, anybody who listens to the BBC is an idiot, because I mean the only reason I listen to them is to figure out what lies they're telling this week and to try and warn people about them. I know that Stuart Campbell down in Bath does the same thing in Wings Over Scotland in the written form. I'm just trying to do it more quickly using the television format of YouTube and free stream and live streaming on Facebook. But the point is, we can't leave the independence referendum past September, because if we do that, it's all over. Bar the shouting, we might as well give up and go home, and all the marching in the world will have been for nothing. So all those of you who were at the march on Saturday, and all those of you who couldn't make it, and I know that there was at least the same number again who wanted to go but couldn't, including myself, we could have had nearly 200,000 people on the streets of Glasgow had we all been able to get there. And I know that that number will double the next time we have another march. And every time we have another march, it will get larger and larger and larger. All we need to have the referendum is the Scottish Government to decide to do it, and to do it now without a Section 30 order. It is a perfectly legal thing to have an informational referendum, one which gives advice to the government about the strength of feeling of the people in Scotland. And that is all we need. Even under the Declaration of Arbroath, and even under the Acts of Union, all we need to break from the Union is a majority of Scots to vote for it. It doesn't need the British government to okay it. This is a complete fallacy. It's been invented by the British state to prevent us from getting a referendum, for goodness sake. If it's not obvious to you by now that the Section 30 order is a break on independence, then I don't know where you've been for the last 10 years. The Section 30 order is designed to prevent a referendum happening. It means that the British government can decide when we have a referendum, and they will only decide to let us have one when they're sure that we will lose it, and when they're sure that they can gerrymander it, or they can cheat, or they can do something to it that will prevent it from happening. So we can't allow the British government and its rules to dictate how we hold our referendum. That's the mistake we've been making for 300 years, thinking that the British government plays fair. It doesn't. Have we learned nothing from all the different things that they have done to us over the centuries? Have we learned nothing about the Brits? The one thing that they do best is cheat. The one thing they do best is use dirty, nasty tricks. They're a spiteful lot. They threatened us the last time that they would not trade with us if we became independent, that they would withdraw their shipbuilding contracts. They were nasty. They were unpleasant. They tried to scare people. And that is exactly what they will continue to do if we allow them to do it. So we must have the vote in September. Anybody listening to my show this morning, turn off Radio Scotland right now. Stop buying all newspapers. I'm even thinking that the National now, although it's still a good paper, is in danger. I'm not saying that people who work in the National are going to turn on us. That won't happen ever. But what I am saying is that the people who own the National, and remember it's owned by the same people who print the Herald, do you think they're going to allow that paper to continue to support independence if it looks like we're going to get a referendum? I don't think they will. I think something will happen to that paper and it will be stopped. Suddenly it will stop being published and we will lose that voice, that other voice that we've been so needed the last time and didn't have. And what do you know? They give us that voice as soon as we lose the referendum. So I'm sorry, but we have to wise up. The British state and the British state media will never, ever allow us to get an independence referendum if we show even the slightest chance of winning it. We have to take it ourselves. We have to organise our own referendum. The Scottish Government must surely know this by now. They must use the mandate, because they've got 3 mandates, and now we're being told we need a 4th or a 5th mandate. Come on, we've been sitting here waiting. All the triggers have been pulled. You can't pull any more triggers, for goodness sake. Brexit is going to be bloody awful, and it doesn't matter which way you slice it or how much proof you need to get. If we wait any longer for proof, it's too late. The British government knows that. That's why they are backpedalling and refusing to decide what Brexit is going to be, because they know if they just outwait us, we will completely lose the ability to win the referendum. They know that. They can outwait us. They can sit and wait forever. They can stall for as long as they like. And what do you know? Eventually it will be too late for us to call a referendum and we can win. And that's the game they're playing. They're playing the long game, and we must stop playing by British rules. If you play by British rules, you lose. That's the secret. That's the thing that every other country in the world which broke away from Britain realised. And they all realised that they would have to take their freedom back by democratic, peaceful means, by non-cooperation, but they would have to take it back. The British government gives nothing. It will never ever give up anything voluntarily. It has to be taken back. And it has to be taken back peacefully by democratic means, and that means our referendum, organised by us, voted for using something like a blockchain system which can't be hacked, so that everybody knows who voted, how they voted, and we have an honest, decent vote for a change. Then I think you'll see that 62% of the people who voted against Brexit, you will find a similar number will be voting for independence. I guarantee it. It will probably be over 62% in favour of independence. I think nearer 70 by the time we actually have the vote. The British government can cry all it likes that we didn't get a Section 30 order, but we have a perfectly legal right to hold a ballot, and under our constitution we can break the union by a simple majority of the people of Scotland voting for it. We can take that to the United Nations and it's bankable. And I don't care who thinks we need a Section 30 order. I'm sorry, the Section 30 order is a construct. It's designed to prevent us getting independence. So I'm angry this morning. I think we all should be angry after nearly 100,000 of us turned out in Glasgow on Saturday and said we want our country back. We're not prepared to be ruled by London anymore. They are doing a stupid thing. They're about to hurt the country. They are about to cost thousands and thousands of Scottish jobs. People are going to be living in hyper austerity. There will be more children eating out of food banks and relying on school meals. People will be hungry, people will be jobless, there will be more homeless people, there will be more disabled people having their benefits sanctioned. It is not going to be nice, and we cannot wait past September. We mustn't wait past September. It's high time that the Scottish Government woke up and smelled the coffee itself and stopped living in the bubble of Westminster. I know the Scottish Government has to jump through hoops and go down every avenue and to prove that they have done everything they can to live within the UK, but that is finished. The British Government finished it themselves when they said they would never listen to the Scottish Parliament. No matter what it decided, they would ride roughshod over it and they will take back their powers because they can. It's as simple as that. Might is right in Britain. Scotland is a tenth of the size of the English state. But it doesn't mean that we cannot hold a referendum, and it does not mean that we have to wait for Westminster Tories to tell us when we can have that referendum. That is what's wrong with our politicians at the moment, and it's time they stopped this game. Stop playing the Westminster game. The more people go down to London as Scottish nationalist MPs, the more the danger is that they get sucked into this bubble as well. I know that it's a very comfortable, nice place in London, and they shower people with expenses and everybody has a lovely old time, and it's a quaint old place with strange customs. But frankly, this is all a diversion. What's really happening in Scotland is what's important. People need to get out of Britain. We need to escape from Brexit, and we need to escape from the clutches of the idiotic Tories and their wealthy tax-avoiding friends who are only Brexiting for their own good. It's nothing to do even with immigration anymore. So anyway, I have to go and do some work now, but I am annoyed this morning and I'm angry. It's time that we all stood up and said, let's have a referendum now. It needs to be in September, and I expect the SNP in June to announce a September date. Any later than that, I still believe will be too late. If it's after March next year, you can forget it. We're not going to win it. And even if we did win it, we'll have David Mundell will already be running Scotland by the time we've won it. If we win it, which I doubt, because by that time, well, there might not be a Holyrood by then. I can't imagine any scenario where the British state wants to let go of Scotland after Brexit. I can't imagine it. They need us too much. They need our money, they need our exports, they need our oil or gas, they need our energy, they need our food exports, and they need our expertise. And it's not our fault that they need us, it's their fault. It's their fault they've mismanaged their own economy so badly that they're relying on a smaller country next door to bail them out. It's not English people's fault that this is happening, it's their government's fault that it's happening. But in Scotland, we are the only people who can change our own destiny, and it's about time we stop pissing around and stop waiting for the British to tell us when we can have a referendum, when we can have it right now if we wanted to. We can have it in August if we wanted to. We've got a system which we know will work. There are many systems out there, blockchain systems could be employed tomorrow. All you need is a few IT guys to set it up. It could be done within a couple of months. And yet the Scottish Government, we hear nothing, nothing at all. Anyway, I'm off. I've got to get some work done today, but I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.